Hello, my name is Marianne, and I'm here today to talk about my Kodak moments. In the 1970s, Kodak advertising tempted people to capture their cherished moments and preserve them forever. Okay, about 10 years, the reason I'm doing this is about 10 years ago, I was joking around with my grandson about doing a YouTube video about his grandfather and his grandfather's friend. It was going to be about fishing at Lake Oneida near Syracuse, New York, and it was going to feature Walter Walleye and Richie Rapala. Unfortunately, I was still working at the time and I really didn't commit to doing the YouTube video. And unfortunately, Richie Rapala is no longer with us. He's fishing in the Sea of Galilee.
All right, and that's what you wanted to say?
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
The Swedes have a name for cleaning out or decluttering. It's death cleaning and it's dostadning. I killed the pronunciation, but look it up and you can.
All right, here we go. We're at the Travel and Tracksuits channel. This is my mom, and she's been working on this script. She's doing her, I guess it's called, what is it called? Go ahead.
Kodak moment.
And what is that about?
Basically, in the 1970s, Kodak had advertising about capturing those special moments in your life and preserving them forever. I bought into the advertising and preserved many of my Kodak moments.
And so when was this, and when, the
70s,
Okay, so this was an ad campaign on TV, radio?
everywhere.
What does this term death cleaning mean?
It means you prepare for your upcoming death by basically cleaning out your house.
You don't think that's a little morbid?
No, because basically from the information what I looked on the internet, they said it's a good idea so not to burden your children or the people who come after you with the tin. What people do in my town is they get a dumpster and they don't look at anything and they throw everything out. So do I want my 50 years of living thrown just callously into a dumpster, or do I want to pass on some of those Kodak special moments to other people?
And so what's your name?
Marianne.
And how old are you?
I'm 73.
And where were you born and raised?
I was raised in Mackinac, which
Pennsylvania?
Yes, Mackinac, Pennsylvania, which is now just about a town that's phasing out, I guess.
And you're the daughter of a Polish immigrant?
Yes. Well, my father didn't come from Poland. My grandmother did. And recently
Where was your father from?
My father was from Glenline, Pennsylvania.
But he wasn't Polish?
He wasn't born in Poland.
Okay. Well, you don't want to talk about this?
No, the point I'm here
Okay, go on. Keep going. Okay.
Is to talk about my Kodak moment.
Okay.
So basically, when I began to look at these albums and assess what was worth saving and what I should death clean or declutter, I came across a disaster. And some of the albums I found discolored photos. Initially, and you can see there's discoloration on the photos.
So these were photos from what years?
1975, 76.
And they are really discolored. So is that typical?
Well, initially, I blamed the fact that I printed some photos at a pop-up photo studio that was located in a parking lot in Nanticoke, Pennsylvania, where the present Weiss store is.
I don't think
However,
anybody... Okay, go on.
However, I Googled it on the internet, the almighty internet, and I found out through a RestoreOldPhotos.com article that sticky photo albums, which were also popular in the 1970s, have lethal chemicals that can destroy the color in photos.
So are these those sticky albums?
Yes, these are those sticky albums.
Were they also made by Kodak?
No, the sticky albums were made by Hallmark. This is a Hallmark one.
Okay.
And what is very disconcerting is the article on RestoreOldPhotos.com, and I believe it was Cole Studios. indicated that sticky photo albums are also being sold today. And I saw that they're sold on eBay. Now, as you
Wait, as like they're new or people are buying used ones?
new used.
What does
So they
new
would call-
used mean?
New used would be an album, say, from the 1970s.
Okay, but they're not still producing these albums, but they're
Yeah,
just never
they
been
are,
used.
But I don't know if the new albums that are being produced, if they're containing less toxin.
Okay.
But you can see from these photo albums that they no longer stick, that photos fall out, and sometimes the photos don't fall out, and it's very hard to pull them off. And then once you pull them off, you can't re-stick them back. So all the time and effort that I put in to organize my photos in a photo album was kind of wasted.
How much time or effort do you think you put into these photo albums?
Hours. Because when my husband went on a
Hundreds of hours?
well, figure a week at a time, maybe 6 hours a day, maybe 30, maybe a couple hundred hours.
Okay.
So that was very disconcerting. The other thing that was disconcerting is now, what do you do with these albums? So,
What do you mean, what do you do with them? Like in my head, you would just throw them out, but you don't want to throw them out.
no, because my husband, for example, was a coach for Newport Biddy basketball. Well, do I want team pictures when he was a coach that my children aren't on? No. But the problem is not everybody is interested in their photos. I messaged on Facebook an individual whose son was in one of these team photos, and he declined me mailing it.
And do you have a problem with this?
Well, Kodak said these were the moments of my life that I should cherish forever.
So you bought into the marketing.
Yes, and apparently today, and it's another thing that you have to adjust to. The newer generation is, or the new young generation is no longer concerned. Not everybody, maybe some people are, because I have a niece, a great niece, Emma, who's very interested in photos.
And
of
she is what age?
21.
So she's college age.
Yes, and
Okay.
she's very interested in the photos. Now, on the other hand, I outreached to the son of a cousin because I came across some photos of him and his parents who are divorced. And he said that he got rid of a lot of stuff in the 20s, when he was in his 20s, and he's now in his mid-40s. And the only thing he's interested in saving is fishing equipment, rods, reels,
Right.
lures.
Well, do you think the problem is because everything's digital now, so people just have photos on their phone?
And I think that people are no longer interested in capturing the moments of their life.
I don't know. So I'm 45, and my wife and her age group, they have crazy amount of photos on their phone. So I don't know if it's necessarily, I think maybe it's just a different way to store them.
But every time they get a new phone, do they transfer all those
Yes.
photos?
Yes.
And do they ever look at those photos?
That's a good question. I can't answer that question.
Because the question becomes, when was, like with these albums, when was the last time they were looked at? Then the other question becomes, so some people I've downsized the photos and I've located their address and just mailed it to them without asking them.
Okay.
And so I haven't had a response back whether they were happy with them or not. Now, the other question becomes, for example, how many photos do you need of dead fish?
Well, you're the one who took these photos, right?
Well, they were special moments in the life. So
To who?
Kodak
Were you-
said capture these
But-
special moments.
Were you a fisherman?
No, but there were people took vacation photos. I have friends and relatives who took vacation photos of a ton of, mountains or trails or
Do you
things
think,
like that.
How often would you say you've looked at these books over the years?
Probably 3 or 4 times.
And does it bring you joy or not joy?
Well, it's nice to remember some of the situations, but then again, how many pictures do you need to remind you? Like, how many pictures of my deceased sister-in-law's dead dog do I need to save in a photo album?
Well, that's pretty morbid. But so who are you against here? Who are you against? It's you versus Kodak. You have a problem with Kodak.
No, what I have a problem with is that the world has changed and I'm growing old ungraciously. You know, because it's nice to look at some of these memories, but I can't go back 50 years in time. Would I have taken as many pictures? I don't know.
What do you think you would have done differently, knowing now? What would you have done differently?
Took less photos.
But would you have saved them differently, or was this the only option?
No, there was other options. I also have photo albums that I Googled, well, not Google because there wasn't Google back then, but somehow I found out about acid-free, I guess it was acid-free, photo albums that they don't damage the pictures.
So I know you wrote a bunch on, like, a script. What were the other main topics that you wanted to get into on this? Because I know I'm kind of taking you off topic.
Well, basically, there was a gentleman on Curious Lion, Andrew Benetti.
And what is Curious Lion? This is a website.
It's a website.
Okay, this is a website online. Okay.
Okay, and then he commented in an article that he wrote, someone asked him, did he have a special cherished moment that he saved? And he said, no, I don't. So I think for some people...
But who is this guy?
I don't know.
What? So what do you care what this guy thinks?
Because I was curious what the younger generation feels about photo albums. Are they as important as they were many years ago? I don't think so. I don't think people maybe take as many photos. Maybe it's over.
I think you're missing that it's so digital, that everyone just has all their stuff on their phone.
But I do not believe that a younger person looks at all the digital photos that they have online.
I will say this, what I do when I'm on a plane, I'll look back. Now, I'm not as good because I didn't start saving them, but I'll look back my 10 years photos on Google and I'll just erase the ones I don't want when I'm bored on a plane flight. I'll go through and be like, well, that's a picture of nothing. So I will look through them occasionally.
So you do downsize your photos?
Yes,
so
of course.
You're not going to have
right. I only want a few of the ones that, yes, right.
Well, that's my whole point. People have the luxury to do that a lot easier.
So you're saying it's just a time thing. So, but maybe the world's faster now, so this was a good use of your time because it kept you occupied. What would you have been doing instead?
Reading a book, maybe. I don't know. All I'm saying is that there was a lot of time and effort that went into capturing these memories that were being preserved forever, and people don't want them. The people who are...
Well, I mean, to be fair, I'll take the ones that are of our family, but yes, nobody wants your sister's dead dog from 1970. I agree with that.
And the other problem is some of the photos that are really old that were not marked, and I'm talking going back maybe 70 years, that were black and white photos that I had reprinted, we don't know who some of the people are.
Right, so that's tough, right.
Yeah, so my cousin and I got into an argument about who a baby was in the picture. I said it was her, she said it was me, so we're not sure who it was.
But you knew it was one of you.
Yes, but the point is, again, who is this baby in the picture? We know where it was taken, the yard it was taken in, you know, the town it was taken in, Makanakwa, but the point becomes, who is the person? So,
well, but I mean, I'm going to be devil's advocate here and say that gave you a way to connect with your cousin and talk to her about something. Because what else are you going to talk about? Well, McDonald's?
But what I'm saying to her is that I sent her some other pictures and she's not interested in it.
But she might not be as nostalgic as you.
Because you have to have, again, a place to store them.
Sure.
Okay, these Hallmark albums were not stored in the cellar. They were not stored in an attic. They were stored in a closet.
So your problem, I want to hear your top problems with these. So your problem is they did not hold up like you were sold. They were selling that these were going to be eternal moments that were going to...
Well, Kodak was the one that's saying that we were cherished moments. I wouldn't have taken as many pictures, nor would I have put as many pictures in an album had, you know, okay, we didn't have digital stuff. And what they're saying is Kodak went bankrupt in 2012, I believe it was, because they didn't see the future of digital cameras, okay? So Kodak went bankrupt. My point is...
So you won, you beat Kodak.
No, I'm not necessarily angry at Kodak. What I'm saying is this whole process is part of my growing old ungraciously and learning that what people of my generation valued is perhaps no longer valued by a younger generation.
Okay.
So this is just a, what would you call it, an image of one of the things, because I could go on about furniture that was supposedly, great antique furniture.
Yes, furniture.
Glassware.
You've talked about furniture before, that you had a dining room set that you believed for how many years was worth $10,000.
Well, I didn't believe it. My husband's father was told by his insurance man that it was a very expensive dining room set. And the gist of it was,
insurance men
dealers,
are generally liars. I would feel that's like the consensus.
No,
here.
they weren't. Maybe at the time. Okay, it's the same thing like with baseball cards. You sell it when the person was hot, not 20 years later. Maybe if they would have sold it 20 years ago, they would have got $1,000 for it. Now that same dining room set, when I called antique dealers, they offered $200. And then to move it just from Glumline to Wilkes-Barre, a moving guy wanted $500.
So it cost you money to get rid of?
Yes.
Okay. So you have problems with Kodak, you have a problem with furniture. Give me some other things you have problems with.
Well, not for today. That's all I want to talk about today, because there's many other things. Basically, what I'm saying is Kodak went bankrupt because they didn't adapt to the future. So what I see is when people on Facebook have estate sales, and I think in our area, a lot of stuff at estate sales isn't necessarily selling because the market has changed. So in terms of growing old...
Do you think they just overvalue their stuff? Do you think it's a problem with they paid... Well, look at TVs. Like, look at when I was growing up, the rich people would get a $4,000 TV. Now anyone can get a flat screen TV for $100. I think maybe just technology moves on, or things
that's what I'm trying to say, that the times have changed and you have to adapt.
All right, we got a couple minutes left here. What else do you want to get to from that script of yours or with these things?
Basically, we talked about the discolored pictures.
Right.
We talked about multiple pictures of fish that are no longer
right.
of value. I talked about outreaching to my cousins who no longer want, pictures. And my problem is now I have to figure out what I'm going to do with all these. Am I going to take the time to take them out of these crappy things that are falling apart and look, and the pictures are falling out.
So what are you going to do?
I don't know. I haven't decided. I have to figure this out. My first problem is to get rid of as many as I can. And again, some people don't respond to me on Facebook to say, that they look.
All right. Well, summarize what we're getting to the end of our show here. Summarize what you want to say.
What I want to say to anybody who has photo albums is, if you want your kids to preserve some of the memories, you better start going through your photo albums now, because my kids aren't going to have time to look through these photo albums and decide which pictures they want to keep and which pictures they want to get rid of. This guy, Jeffrey, I asked Jeffrey, I messaged him on Facebook, do you want these pictures of yourself? Again, I repeat, he said, no, I saved my fishing equipment. So I have to adapt and change and understand that although I valued these Kodak moments, not everybody is going to. So thank goodness for my great niece Emma, who's taken probably over 200 photos already. And hopefully she'll continue to take some more, as now, after this is posted, I can throw out some of these Hallmark albums, figure out what the heck to do with the rest of them, and go from there.
Do you have a favorite photo?
photos. I mean, there are some Kodak moments that I would cherish. I mean, when I looked through some of these photos the other day, what I was surprised about is my kids smiled a lot. And today, when you try to talk to them, they're not usually smiling, but as kids, they smiled a lot. What I liked to see was my father wore a sport coat. No matter where he went, he wore a sport coat. Don't ask me why. We'd go fishing at Elephant Lake in Canada and he wore a sport coat, you know, to catch these fish in these photos.
All right, well, summarize what you have to say and let's finish this up.
Well, if anybody played Newport Biddy basketball.
Nobody worry about that. All right, on to the next thing. All right, we were here with, what is your name? Growing Old Ungraciously?
Yes.
And you're going to have your own channel. I'm going to post this onto my channel, but eventually we'll move to yours because I don't know how many of these Kodak memories I can handle on mine. But thanks for being with us today. You have anything else you want to say?
No, thank you and goodbye.
Like and subscribe. If you made it this far, please give me a like and subscribe for this one. Thank you. What do you need?
My highlighter.
What are you going to do with it?
I'm going to highlight the names of these people.
I'm just checking the light levels. So you want a green highlighter?